They say hospitals are places of healing. But in the East Wing of St. Mark's Hospital, healing was the last thing anyone found. Grace Miller was a new nurse, young, passionate, and eager to prove herself. When she was assigned to the night shift, everyone congratulated her. Except for one old nurse who whispered, "Just stay away from the East Wing." Grace didn't understand what that meant. The East Wing was said to be under renovation, closed for years after a fire. But every night, she noticed something strange. At exactly 2 a.m., the lights in the East Wing flickered on. She'd hear faint sounds, metal instruments clinking, the squeak of wheels, and once, a man's voice humming softly. She tried asking her colleagues, but they always brushed her off. Probably electrical issues, they said. But Grace could see the fear in their eyes whenever she mentioned that wing. One stormy night, curiosity got the better of her. She took a flashlight and pushed the East Wing door open. The air inside was thick and cold. Beds were covered in white sheets. The walls were stained with something dark. And at the end of the hallway she saw light coming from an old operating room. As she moved closer, she saw a man in a doctor's coat bent over a table. He was humming that same tune she'd heard before. "Excuse me, sir," she said. "You're not supposed to be in here." The man slowly turned. His eyes were hollow, his smile unnaturally wide. His name tag read, Dr. Malcolm Gray. He tilted his head and said quietly, "You shouldn't be here, Nurse Miller. I've been waiting for a new assistant." Before Grace could respond, the lights went out. When they flickered back on, the room was empty. Only a scalpel lay on the floor, wet with something red. The next morning, Grace couldn't stop thinking about what she saw. She searched the hospital records for Dr. Malcolm Gray and found nothing recent. Finally, the head nurse told her in a low voice, Dr. Gray was one of the hospital's best surgeons. But he became obsessed with his experiments trying to make patients better by replacing body parts. Dozens of people disappeared. When the hospital found out, he locked himself in his lab and burned it down with himself inside. Grace was horrified. But something didn't add up. The East Wing fire happened exactly 10 years ago that night. And at 2 a.m., the power flickered again. Determined to uncover the truth, Grace returned to the East Wing. She followed the same corridor, this time reaching the old surgical ward. There, behind a torn curtain, she found a rusted elevator. It shouldn't have worked, but when she pressed the button, it opened with a ding. Inside, she descended into the basement. The walls down there were lined with shelves of dusty medical jars, inside them, preserved human organs floating in yellow fluid. Old medical charts were scattered everywhere, labeled experimental surgery. And on the wall, written in blood, were the words, "Perfection is pain." Then she heard breathing behind her. She turned and Dr. Gray stood there. Only this time, half his face was burned, his hands covered in blood. He smiled. "Welcome to my lab, nurse. Let's make you perfect." Grace tried to run, but the door slammed shut. She screamed as he injected her arm with something cold. When she woke up, she was strapped to an operating table under a bright light. She could hear Dr. Gray humming again, tools clinking on a metal tray. The next morning, the hospital staff found Grace sitting in the hallway of the East Wing. She couldn't remember what happened. The East Wing was sealed again, and the management said nothing. But patients began to disappear again. And soon, nurses began to whisper about the new surgeon who worked the night shift.